Welcome back to my workshop and the journey that I'm on as I try to not only improve the quality of my woodworking but also sort out some of the workshop that I'm working in. Last week we were starting the actual cutting of the sliding dovetails, and if you remember I got myself into a bit of a mess because I wasn't quite sure which way I was supposed to be moving the router fence. Well, I think I've come up with a solution, and whether it works or not, well, we'll wait and see. But all of the slots have been cut, if you remember, and on the shelf supports I've cut 2 of the 4 tails. This afternoon it's a case of cutting the other 2 tails. This is going to be against the fence, but that's where, again, today's a bit of an experiment to see how everything goes. Let's see how well we get on. Now, part of the problem last week was me getting confused into which way I was moving the fence to increase or decrease the size of the cut. So what I'm going to do first of all is take the straight edge, and I'll try not to demolish the workshop while I'm at it, and really align the face of the fence with this front edge of the cutter. So that's just a case of bringing that one forward, making sure that's perpendicular to the fence. There we go. And that's just where I want it. So the front is aligned with that top corner of the cutter. So I'll tighten this side of the fence down, so the only thing that's going to be moving is this side. Now, from the cutter to this top end of the fence, we are talking about, from centre to centre, that's 46 centimetres. So, thinking about the video from Axminster Skills Centre that I linked to last week, for every millimetre that this end moves, this here is going to move by about 1/2 millimetre. So what I'm going to do is just make a note on the bench . One, 2, 3, 4, and 5 millimetres. That's this way, but of course that is where the fence won't want to come, but I'm just doing that anyway. And then, in fact, what I'll do is, that's the 0 line. If I now make 5 1mm lines just there, I'll be able to see more clearly what I'm doing. So the registration line is here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 millimeters. That should be ample for what I need to do. So let's just move this back. So I need to extend those lines, that's fine. And I really, after these projects are done, I really must sort out what I'm doing with my workshop. One. 2, 3, 4 and 5. Those will give me rough indications about where I'm going. All I've got to do now is make sure everything is still aligned. Move this back to the registration point. Just there. Make sure that the cutter is still on the face. It has moved from this far end, so let me just get everything aligned again. There we go. So tighten that down, and then for every millimetre going that way it increases the cut by about 0.5 millimetre here. Right, so there is the slot, and the width in this top corner is 15 millimeters. The workpiece is 17, about 17 and a half. So I'm only going to be making in total a cut of about 2.5 millimeters. So this is going to, all I'm going to be doing then is making 1 or 2 cuts at about 1 millimetre different. I'll start with 2 millimetre difference there. Let's just double check. So tighten that down and make 2 passes. 1, 2, then I'll see how it's going. Now that's hardly taking anything off, but you would have seen I managed to push it into the gap somewhat, so I'm going to have to be careful about that. But That's proving that the system works, so let's move it again. That is a nice clean dovetail, but how's the size going? That needs to come off by about 0.5 millimetre each way. So just a tad. And that is almost there. That's just a shade tight, but this is proving to be much easier this week. A little bit loose, but I'm going to live with that one. Lovely. So that's that one. What's this going to be like? If I use that one in this one, a little loose in that one, so back slightly, and I should be able to take that in one pass. The reason I've just done that is this leading edge is just fouling on there, so I'm just going to take that off with a chisel just to ease it through, stop it snagging. That's it. And now that is just a little too tight. Okay. And I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, it's a little looser than I would have liked, but I'm going to leave it at that. So all I've got to do now is square off all of the slots, the 4 slots, so it's those 2 and then the 2 on the shelf, and we're about ready to go. This is how the shelf is going to look, and I am very pleased with that. That's the rear, of course. So, yeah, I'm very happy with that. And then, of course, these brackets or shelf supports will go there. And again, I just need to take those corners out slightly so that everything meets. But yes, I'm very pleased with that. Of course, one suggestion that Tim made is, rather than drill into these brackets and have these screws on show, I could drill into the wall through the dovetails and then countersink the screw heads in there. It's an option. I haven't quite decided which way I'm going to go yet on that one, but just tidy up those dovetails and then we can set about starting the finishing by sanding. So this one isn't quite fitting properly, so I have to ease this one a little more. There we are. So the front of both slots is now fully covered, and the wall brackets go on nicely with again the top of the or the bottom of the slot covered nicely. The bracket fits against the shelf, and a little measuring error there has meant I've got a gap, but I can get round that just by taking that off on the plane, so that will the shelf will then fit against the wall with the wall brackets. All that though is good. Next job is to start the finishing process, so I'll take that down on the plane. Let me just make a mark. That's how much I really need to take everything off with. There we go. So that will come off on the plane, then I can sand, then I can finish. Right, face side, so that's going to go along the fence. That's where I'm just taking off, and I'll take off 1 millimetre at a time. Here we go. Now that didn't quite work as I had hoped. There was a lot of breaking of the fibres there, so that's not a smooth edge, but it's taken it down to the mark that I wanted, and I'll have to think about that for later projects so that I can avoid that sort of thing happening. But it's done what I wanted in that it's taken that material off, so put the planer away, then I can get the sander out. First thing first, I'm going to use the 40 grit sander just to take down that bit that I've just planed. Right, that's 40 grit all round, except for these bits here. I'm just going to put those through on the sander as well, and then carry on with the usual regime of 80, 120 and 180 grit. as I mentioned, I've got to decide yet where I'm putting the screw holes on the wall brackets. Not sure whether to take Tim's suggestion and put them in the slots, or do I cut holes in the face. I'll decide that over this next week, and with it being oak, I can't use steel or iron because that's going to stain badly, but means I'll need some brass screws, and that's something I've also got to get during this next week. But well, there's no rush for the screws up actually, because I've got to finish them with the varnish yet, and so the actual fitting to the wall is going to be about a fortnight's time. But that's the project. I'm really pleased with the way that things have gone this afternoon. Far better than last week, and I think I was a little tired last week, but hey ho. And once the shelf's done, then I think the next thing I'm going to do is carry on sorting out the workshop. One thing I have noticed over this past few weeks with the two projects that I've had on, with doing routing work on the bench, I could do with, rather than reaching under the bench to switch the power off on the router, I could do with fitting a switch on the bench itself, so I just have to hit the button, and that would make life that little bit easier. But then I've got to sort out the mess behind me and behind you, behind the camera. You'll have seen glimpses of the mess that my scrap wood is in, and so all of that is going to make life a lot easier if I can get that all sorted. But thanks for coming along with me this afternoon. A lot shorter than the last couple of videos, and hope you find this a little easier to watch. But as I say, thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you next time.